Hey, good morning, everybody. How's it going? Let me shut off that overlay. Hope you're all doing good. Happy Sunday. Where is that overlay and why is it still showing? There it goes. Cool. Well, how's it going? Hope everybody's doing well. Gotta update a few things around the website and stuff like that. So, hey, I'm Ian Douglas. I'm the author of this website, techinterview.guide. I'm here to help people out with career advancement and interview prep, and it's going to be a short stream today. Got some family in town visiting, so it's going to be a real quick one. I want to talk a little bit about the giveaway that we're going to do on Thursday and what's going to be involved in that. So yeah, we're just going to hang out for a little bit. If you got questions, absolutely drop them in chat as usual. Otherwise, we're going to kind of just do like a real quick kind of stream today, and then I'll probably just leave the stream on the other screen that tells people how to enter the giveaway for Thursday. You will not need to be present on Thursday in order to win, but if you are present, you'll get to choose your prize. So we're going to have a number of things set up there. Hey Zooey, good to see you. We're going to have a number of things set up on that giveaway, so I'll be happy to chat about that today. So we got the grand prize of a $100 gift card, and I found an online gift card website that's going to allow me to send that anywhere in the world. So wherever you are, I'm going to be able to get you some kind of gift card or a gift card code of some kind, and you're also going to get to choose where. So if you're on the stream Thursday, you're going to get to choose like what kind of gift card you get. But that's not the only giveaway we're going to do, and that's all I'm going to tell you on Thursday. It's not the only giveaway that's happening, so that'll be the biggest, maybe the biggest giveaway, but it's not going to be the only giveaway happening. So just want to be upfront about that. And let me do git commit or git add public and git status. I'm just pushing up a new version of the financial transparency page so I can update this number down here because it increased a little bit. So I just want to get that going, and then so git commit dash am updated financial transparency, and we'll get that pushed. Two hours later, there it goes. All right, so we'll get that Firebase deployed, and we'll get that money page updated, and then we'll go take a look at what we have as far as updated payment stuff. So, Zooey, how's your weekend going? Hope you're doing good. What's new in your world? Haven't chatted with you very much lately. Hope the job's going well. Fill us in. Let us know how your job's going. What's new in your neck of the woods? All that good stuff. Had a number of followers come in over the past week or so, which is great. I did have the Twitch stream running where it's just like, here's how to register for Thursday. We've had about 50 registrations or so come in, which has been fantastic. I'd love to get it to be a lot more than that. So spread the word. If you want to help on the socials and let folks know that I'm doing a giveaway on Thursday, they will need to be a follower of the channel. And so I've got some code that's going through, and it's like grabbing all of my users from Twitch, and it's going to cross check that against the people that actually register. Because I've had a number of people register. They're like, oh, free giveaway, let me give you my details. And then they're not actually following the channel, so they get thrown away. So you have to be a follower of the channel if you can enter that giveaway. But we should see the bot like throw stuff over here. You can see the one link over there right now. It's just a Google form to fill out. And I do ask for your Twitch username and how long you've been following me and like what's been your favorite tip and things like that. I like Zooey's favorite tip. Opinions are like armpits. Everybody's got one. Most people have a couple, and some of them stink. But yeah, it's a little more family friendly version than the one we usually hear. But yeah, anyway. So yeah, so today's going to be a fairly short stream, I think, just because I've got family in town. My kids are going to be very loudly protesting against doing dishes upstairs in the kitchen, so it's about to get noisy right above me. So it'll probably just be a real quick stream, and then we got family stuff and got to get groceries and meal prep for the week and all that good stuff. So yeah, so I'll probably stream for maybe an hour or so. We'll see what kind of questions come up, and then we will I'll probably just put it on the screen for how to register, and then we'll just leave the stream running for the day. Cool deal. Well, if you're in chat, feel free to drop a hello. Let me know you're there. let's see what else we got going on. Okay, so the new web page is done. So if I go to techinterview.guide/money, see our transparency, there it is, $66.76. Let me go update that real quick. Fundraiser goal, properties, and we'll update that to 66.76. And again, this is money from all of you as far as like PayPal and bits and donations and subs and all that kind of stuff. And so we're going to keep raising that money for diversity in tech. I'm trying to find a new organization to donate this money to at the end of the year. And I'm always happy to take suggestions. If you know of a group who is a nonprofit organization that has been running for at least a couple of years, that I can go look at their tax returns and things like that, make sure they're legit, and then see how they're spending their money and see like some kind of transparency page from them about how they help with diversity in tech. I'm more than happy to take suggestions on that. So Thursday we're going to have a number of giveaways happening. That's all I'm going to say about that. So we got the main grand prize of that $100 gift card, but there's going to be a handful of other giveaways as well. So looking forward to that. So yeah, you will need to register, but there are going to be several giveaways happening. So. All right, well, I think we'll dive in. I did get a number of resumes submitted as far as like resume reviews and things like that. And so I thought I would maybe do like a quick resume review or two, just to get those kind of out of the way. I do want to save some of the resumes for when we have guests on the stream. But I figured I would do at least one today. So I'm going to go over to my emails and we'll go grab one resume to do. I did have somebody reach out and ask if I could do a LinkedIn review. They sent me some money over PayPal, but then they never bothered telling me what their LinkedIn URL was. So I can't do your LinkedIn URL. So if you are live watching me and it was you, if you send me a PayPal donation asking for a LinkedIn review, if you could send me another email and let me know, just to confirm your email address and let me know that it was you, I will correlate that with PayPal, and then I will happily do your private LinkedIn review. But when they sent over the PayPal payment, they didn't say what their LinkedIn URL was, so I can't do it unless you tell me that bit of detail. Right, let's see. Oh, and I had some really cool news shared with me this week on LinkedIn. So someone who came on the stream about 2 weeks ago, I think, maybe 3 weeks ago, they said they had asked a question on the stream around like, how do I talk to my manager about getting a raise when they've asked me to take on more responsibility? And so I gave some input around, well, you start by asking your manager, hey, can we sit down in a couple of weeks and have a chat about my compensation because I'm taking on this extra responsibility? And it kind of prepares them a little bit for having that conversation so they can go figure out, okay, well, what's in the budget and so on. Well, they took my advice and they reached out to their manager and said, I'd like to have a meeting about my compensation in a couple of weeks. And their boss emailed them or like sent them a message back in under 5 minutes saying, yeah, I just went ahead and gave you a raise. It all comes down to communication. That's all you need, is just to communicate your intent around like, hey, you know what, like compensation, like I have skills, those skills are worth money, I would like to be paid that money. I think companies are a lot happier to give you that raise and retain you than to lose your talent and have to go hire, because it's expensive to hire people. So that made me feel pretty good that that happened. It wasn't explicitly my advice, but I think just prompting them around like, hey, you can have that conversation with your manager. You just have to give them time. It's not necessarily something that's going to happen that instantly. And for them, it did. As soon as they reached out to their manager's like, yep, I already approved a raise, and it's done. Whether it's retroactive or whatever, I don't know, but that made me feel pretty good that they followed some advice on the channel and they got themselves a raise. So high five to them. That made me feel really, really good this week. What else is going on? What else has been happening for all of you? Got a handful of viewers in the stream. So what's been going on in your world? What kind of help can I help with as far as interview prep and career advancement and all that kind of stuff? Happy to take questions at any time. Feel free to just drop questions in chat. If you'd like to ask a question anonymously, you can send a whisper over to my bot and it'll show up anonymously in chat. And so as long as you don't give away any details like, hi, it's Zooey, can you answer this question? Then it's obviously going to show that. But if you just ask a question of the bot, it'll show up in chat without your username attached. And I'm happy to take any questions, anything around career advancement or interview prep related, anything that you think I can help out with, I'm happy to do. So let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to go grab another resume here. And we will go do a quick resume review. So this is a resume review that we did a couple of weeks ago, and they sent it back in saying like, hey, can you re-review it? So I thought I would do that. So let me go over to that screen. And this is for Master Firewall. So Master Firewall sent in a resume and asked for a review. And we gave them some ideas. And I forget if theirs was one of the ones that came in when we had Tiffany on the stream a week and a half ago. Gosh, it feels like just a couple of days ago, but it's been like an entire week and a bit. But Tiffany had some really great ideas around resume reviews and things to put on a resume and what she looks for as an engineering manager. And that's why I love having folks on the stream. And so you can also go check out the whole streaming schedule. Let me pull this down here, go over to that page. Nope. So we've got a live streaming. We've got a whole schedule set up, and I've got a few more people to add on here as well. So no guest plan for today. Thursday is going to be our 1,000 follower 1 year anniversary giveaway, as well as a link to register. So if you want to go find it there, you can. Next Sunday, we're going to have Laura Langdon on the stream. They reached out on Polywork about coming on the stream, and they were a data scientist who got into technical writing. And so it's going to be interesting to hear Laura's kind of perspectives on being in the tech industry and things like that. And then I think the following Thursday, so not this Thursday, but the following Thursday, I think we're going to have Strager on, who's here on Twitch. Going to have Strager on the stream and just kind of hear from him a little bit. And then the following Sunday, we're going to have Rohit on here, who is also a technical writer and also does training and curriculum development and so on. No guest planned on August 11th because my kids are like getting ready to go back to school that week. And so I may not do a stream either, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. There's also a slight possibility I might be taking a short trip that weekend. But I will be back for that Sunday when we're going to have Mike Elsmore, who's also here on Twitch as UK Mad LZ here on Twitch. We're going to have Mike on the stream as well. And Mike also does like resume reviews and career prep and things like that, as well as live coding. Lots of live coding on his channel. So he's going to come hang out with us, and then just a handful of other people. And then I've actually got people all the way into September now. So September, I think the 11th and the 18th, I've got folks planned for those streams. September 4th is Labor Day weekend, and so I may not stream that Sunday. That's usually a weekend that we like to try to get away and get out of town and stuff like that as a family, so I may not stream that Sunday. But yeah, lots and lots of people kind of lined up in here. So it's going to be fun. I think Praveen has committed to being one of the folks coming on the stream pretty soon. So anyway, so Master Firewall had sent us in a resume and asked for a re-review. So I'm going to go ahead and start a clip, and then we'll dive in on this. So we're going to do a re-review of a resume that we did for Master Firewall, who's a user here on the channel. Hey Whip, good to see you in chat. And they went through and they made a number of changes. They said, hey, you give me some resume, or give me some feedback on my resume last week. So they sent this in about a week and a half ago, and we had reviewed it a week prior to that. Made some of the changes. I'm looking to get into a senior data analyst or data scientist role. I took my phone number off the header. It would be next to the LinkedIn profile. Job note, I was working as a sales analyst and lead replenishment analyst at the same time and at the same company. There was no additional pay included at the time. It was just a role I inherited when a coworker left. Okay, so let's have a peek through here. So again, at first glance, good job kind of keeping everything on a single page. Again, I like to kind of zoom out and kind of see like what's the balance overall on the page and what's going on in there. And overall, the balance of the page seems pretty good. There's still a fair bit of text down here at the bottom in that sales analyst role. If it's a previous role, you don't have to give me quite as many details about it as your current role. So anything that's really current, you want more bullet points on here. So let's dive in. And so they mentioned up on top near their LinkedIn profile that they'd have their phone number on here as well. I think you could probably put the email and phone number on the same line and put the LinkedIn on the one after that. If you've got a GitHub account, I would love to see that up here as well. Technical skills, they've got all their sort of data. Let me zoom out one. They've got a lot of their data analyst kinds of tooling and things on here, and Python with the libraries that they use. The fact that this wraps around onto a second line, I think you could probably put this into bullet points, so it'll kind of conform to a similar format to what you have here, where you've got a bullet point on like the actual data tools that you use, and then like programming languages that you know or something that can support what you claim to know. So I would probably do some bullet points on here. So what I'm thinking I might do here is I'm going to show you how I'm going to kind of take a look through Master Firewall's resume and see what we can do here. So I'm going to grab a copy of all the content on here, and we're going to go build Master Firewall a new resume. So I'm just going to Control A, Control C, and we're going to go over to here, and we're going to go to, let's see, I'm going to just do this on a different screen here for a second. And we'll go into private resume reviews, and we'll make a new document in here. There you go. All right. So I'm just going to go in and I'm just going to paste all that content. Now we can see in here that it actually pasted over the actual bullet icon. So that tells me that Master Firewall actually used a custom bullet on here, which we can use to kind of parse it out later on. So let me show you how I would go through and reformat this, because there's a lot of text. So the first thing I do, I highlight everything, I make it 10-point font. Next thing I'm going to go through is I'm going to go to File, Page Setup, and I'm going to set my margins. And how I like to set my margins, I like to set that top margin fairly small. I'm going to do 0.5 on that, and I'm going to do 0.6 on all the other margins. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set a right justified margin over here, right up against this left, or right up against this right margin, so that any dates I have are automatically going to kind of line up on that side of the screen. So I'm with everything still highlighted, I'm going to right click in the bar up here, and I'm going to say add a right tab stop, which adds this little blue marker here, and I'm just going to drag that all the way over to my margin and let go of that. And then from here, what I like to do is on the very first line, I like to insert a table. So I'm going to go Insert, Table, and I make a single row, 2-column table. Now, Google Docs by default is going to add this blank line at the top, and you can't get rid of it. The only thing you can do is shrink it down. So I make that a 1-point font. And then we're going to do Master Firewall, and we're just going to drag this up into here. And then under here, I'm going to put in like whatever job title I would expect to sort of be looking for. So in this case, they're looking for a senior data analyst or data scientist role. So senior data analyst or data scientist role. So I'm going to just call this like senior data analyst scientist. And we'll just put all that in one. And then over here, we're going to have their email, we're going to have their phone number, and we're going to have their LinkedIn profile. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all of, well, actually, we'll make this LinkedIn. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all of these things, and I'm going to right justify all of that in here as well. Now, if you want, you can drag over this other column, depending on what kinds of URLs you're going to put in here. If nowadays everything's going to be digital, and so you don't have to spell out the URLs anymore. I used to tell people like always put the URL on here because if people print it out, they can't click on anything. but in today's day and age, everybody's going to get a digital copy. So on here, and then I would probably want to see like a GitHub link if you have one. If you don't have one, that's okay. From here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on this border. Oops, let me try that again. Click on the border. Oh, click on this border. There we go. And what we want to do is we want to go down to table properties. And inside the table properties, what we're going to do is we're going to set the table border to be white color. We're also going to go up to alignment, and we're going to set the cell padding to 0. So that's going to push everything right up against the where those lines would have been, so that you don't get this tiny little bit of space that we see where things aren't lining up exactly over here. So I'm just going to go set that to 0. And now we see that this lines up exactly on the left. These line up over here on the right, approximately. And so as we do our other work, then we're going to see things kind of take shape from here. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to set their name to a 20-point font, and I'm going to set their title to be like a 14-point font. All right, so now the next thing that we have is their skills block, and so this is where we would get into those bullet points. And so the first thing I'm going to do is do a subtitle called Data Tools, and the second one is going to be like programming. And we'll just leave it as programming for now. And so this is going to be the Python and SQL on this line. And then we'll put all this other stuff on the first line. And we'll get rid of that trailing comma over here. And then we'll get rid of this line here. So this line was something that Master Firewall had actually put in like a whole bunch of underscores, which we don't really need to do here anymore. Hey Miller, we were good to see you in chat. Little Lily 16, first time chat. I'm having trouble organizing a solid study schedule. Cool. I'm going to get to that question as soon as we finish up with this resume. So thanks for asking. I will get to that here in a moment. All right, so employment history. So what I'm doing here is Master Firewall sent in a resume, and so I'm just showing how I might reformat the resume. And again, these are just my opinions on how I might do this. So all these headings I'm going to set to 12-point font. I'm also going to throw some bold on here. And then this is where we get into that tab stop for the date. So because I set that right tab stop while everything was still highlighted, so you have to set that tab stop while everything is still highlighted. Now we can see that we can still see that extra blue check mark over here in the margin. So now when I come over and I click on the left side of the S for September and I hit tab, now it's going to lock it over on that margin for us. Now it's not quite lined up with what we had over here. So it looks like there's still maybe a little bit of padding over on that table. So I'm going to go over, oh yeah, that whole table didn't reset that padding. So there we go. Cool. So now these are going to be lined up on that right margin a little bit better. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to change all these months to just 3-letter months. So just kind of showing folks how I might go through and reformat a resume a little bit here. Now, when we look at Master Firewall's original resume and some of the stuff that they had on here, so company number 2, and they had company number 1. So this one ended May 2018. This one was September 2018. That was fine. This one was May 2018, which overlapped. So basically what they said is they had 2 different roles at the same company that overlapped because they took on additional responsibility. This can look a little bit confusing for recruiters because they're going to see, oh, you were at company 1 until May 2018, but you were also at the same company until May 2018. What I would probably do is like blend these together in some way that shows that you were just at the company from May 2016 to May 2018, and these were the roles and kind of what you did in the different roles. They still want to see that progression of skill, but I think that we can lay that out a little bit in a way that these dates aren't going to be as confusing. But the biggest thing that I want to take a look at here is how Master Firewall was setting up these bullet points and how we can maybe shorten some of these up. Like this one barely wraps over into another line. So is there a way that we can trim these up to where these bullet points don't wrap onto a new line like this? as much as possible, we want to try to keep our bullet points short and concise, especially when there's multiple thoughts and stuff in here. Like this first bullet point is 2 sentences, so could each of these sentences be a bullet point? So that's the kind of thing that we're going to look at here. So this was Company 2 in Austin, Texas. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight the company as that first line, and then we're going to move this date here onto that first line. And I'll tell you the reason why I'm doing it this way. Because when we get into that other job where we had, this was the other role at Company 1 from that date to that date. And then they also had the other role at that company as well. So this was also at Company 1. By putting the company first, by putting the company name first, it's going to allow for a little bit easier layout as far as describing what your role was while you were at that company. Now, whether you put a bold on the company name or you put a bold on your title is really up to you. It's really like, what do you want to stand out to them as well? Hey, Master Firewall, good to see you in chat. Yeah, we're going through your resume here. Random open went well. Good to hear. So I'm just showing some ideas about how I might lay some of this out as far as reformatting and so on, and just talk a little bit about how to blend these 2 jobs per the feedback that you gave on the resume. So what I decided to do on your resume was to list the company name first and then the role, because you had the role and then the company and date, and then the role and then the company and date, and I think that that's where some of that confusion could come into play. So by putting the company name first, what we can do here is so we can come back over and we can set that tab stop over here. Just bring this back down to 2 or 3 letter months. Also make sure that we don't have extra space in there. Okay. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to take this first date of May 2016, and we're just going to say you were at that company that whole time. Now what we could do is say this role was March 2017 through May 2018. So this is going to show how you had these different roles in these different times and how they overlapped a little bit. So now what we can do is we can actually just do this kind of thing, where they can see a little bit clearer that you were at that company that whole time, but then this was sort of the transition. But this still looks a little bit confusing because you had both of these roles, you held both of these responsibilities, but you started in this role by yourself. Or like you started as this role alone, but then you also took on additional responsibility doing this as well. So what I might do here is leave these dates and say I was at this company for a little over 2 years. They already see from there that you started in May of 2016. And so we can take this off. And you started as a sales analyst. And then you took on additional responsibility in 2017. So we can say additional responsibility in March of 2017. And now we can take that off. Okay, so now these are your 2 roles. So what we could do here is we can put a bold on the company. And so we want to be consistent with that and put a bold on the company up here. And now they can see that you held these 2 roles. And now you can give me the bullet points for each of these different kinds of roles. So what were the roles that you did just as a sales analyst? And then what were the additional responsibilities that you took on in March of 2017? So that's how I might lay that out. And then you can come in here and you can pick and choose like which of these bullet points that you want to talk about in here. But one of the things that I was mentioning is like some of the bullet points that you had on your resume are still pretty long, and some of them like only overlap by like wrap around to another line just by a couple of words. And so as much as possible, we want to try to reduce having them wrap around, especially when there's only a couple of words. When we talk about like page layout and sort of data or like layout design, we talk about these like fragmented words on a separate line by itself. We call them orphans, which I know isn't a great term, but like if the word changes, for example, was on a line all by itself, And it's like, okay, what can we change up on this line just to make sure that, we don't end up with this orphan on a line by itself. Because it is using a lot of extra space. Now, some of it could be adjusted maybe with font size. Some of it could be adjusted by just trimming out some unnecessary sort of filler words. So you can take out any pronouns in here, like I did this. Well, this is your resume. So you can just say eliminated the need for. So eliminated need for 8+ multi-tab Excel reports, sent out weekly. So how I like to see these kind of laid out is you want to have the verb, you want to have the result, and then you want to have the impact. So you eliminated the need for these things, but you did that by creating something else. And so I would say created Power BI reports that eliminated 8+ Excel reports. And then what was the impact of that? Reducing, weekly emails, or like how are these sent out? Reducing weekly, like you've already used the word report in here twice. So created Power BI reports that eliminated 8+ Excel spreadsheets or something. Like I don't want to be redundant in here. So I might say like something like spreadsheets, reducing weekly, communications. And if you can say like by 10% or something like that, that's just an extra qualifier on top of that as far as like quantifying that information. But that's how I might reduce that first bullet point, by saying what was the verb, like what was the thing that you did, what was the impact of that, and what was the result. This is what people really want to see on resumes, is they want to see, if I hire Master Firewall at my job, what kind of impact are they going to have? If your resume is just a bunch of bullet points like I did this thing, I did this thing, I did this thing, it's like, okay, well, I'm still going to be interested in that because I want you to come and do that stuff here too. But if I can see the impact that had, then that's just an extra selling point for me. Sorry, I got something in my eye. That's just an extra selling point for me around like why I want to hire you on my team, if that makes sense. So the follow-on sentence that you had here, this eliminated multiple emails for IT supervisors and directors that was received weekly. So you already talked about reducing that weekly. So you created Power BI reports, eliminating eliminating 8+ Excel spreadsheets, reducing weekly communications to directors. Or reducing redundant communication to directors, something like that, right? So now we've kind of brought in the theme of what was the impact of that. So you created this thing, and the result was that you reduced the number of Excel spreadsheets or Excel reports that you had to do, which then also had a cascading effect of reducing communications. Well, in this case, that it was, it was email. So reducing redundant emails to directors. So now we can shorten that up even more. As much as possible, I try to get my bullet points to not go underneath these dates, just so the dates can kind of be like more in a visual column, like not a hard column like we did with a table up here at the top, but you can kind of see the dates a little more isolated. But now we got the full sort of explanation of what you said in 2 sentences in a single bullet point that only spanned 1 line. So this is how I try to go through and like clean up a resume, is try to find like the really strong, impactful, like what was the verb of what I did, what was the result of that, and then what was the impact on the team. Now, if all you have is a verb statement of I did the thing, that's fine. If you can say I did a thing and this was the result, that's great. If you can say I did a thing, this was the result, and this was the final impact that it had, that's even better. So as much as possible, you want those 3 things, but if you can only do the 1 verb statement, that's okay too. but that's how I like to go in and like clean these things up. So now we don't need this. So the next one, I automated Excel reports using Python, which increased, so this is also another kind of long statement here. So I automated Excel reports using Python, which increased report accuracy and eliminated 40 hours of work for both the IT business operations, HR team, and the performance team every month. Okay, so let's see. So you used Python. So wrote Python automation to increase report accuracy and reduced monthly, reducing monthly work by 40 hours for HR and performance teams. Now that's going to end up wrapping onto another line, but so we'll just say HR/operations. So again, IT business operations, like, you know, you're kind of showing who the team is, which can be really beneficial too. But I don't know that you need to explain that, because this was part of like the group that you were already in. So you can just say like you reduced it for HR and operations at that point. And so now, again, we've taken out 2 sentences. We've replaced it with just a single one. So those are the kinds of things that I look for when reducing this kind of stuff. Use just what's the verb, what's the result, what was the impact. And so this was the verb. You wrote your Python automation. The result of that was increasing report accuracy, and the impact of that was reducing monthly work by 40 hours. So you eliminated an entire week worth of work for like every month for this other team. You freed up a lot of their time by doing that. That's the kind of stuff that as a hiring manager, I'm like, whoa, you can come and like automate that kind of stuff and streamline that kind of stuff. I want you to do that here too. So those are the kinds of things that I would do there. Cool. So hopefully that gives you some idea of how to do that. Now, when we go back and we look at your original resume here, you had a lot of other content on here, which, you know, as you reduce those bullet points, you may find that there's going to be a lot of extra space on the page. So that could be where you beef up your technical skills a little bit, as far as like, you know, now you've done more than just Python, you've also done automation. And what's the sort of impact of that, and how can, like, what kind of automation have you done? What kind of systems have you worked with beyond just these things? Like, how did you actually set up that automation? Was it a cron job? Was it just a shell script that you ran? Was it something that, you know, you put on a system that was like a serverless kind of thing? Was it a webhook that when somebody else did something, it actually ran your Python script to go do this other work? Like, if you could talk about some of that as well, as far as like the skills and stuff. But what you're going to find is, as you know, we reduced these first 2 bullet points, which took up 4 lines of space, and we replaced it with 2 lines of text. That's going to free up a lot of room on the page. So you're going to need to fill that up with something else. Now, what we could do then is, if you find like, you know what, I got too much space on here now. Well, great. Come in here and bump this from 10-point font to 11-point font. And now we see these orphan words, right? But now you could come in and you could explain like a little bit extra and maybe tack on a couple extra words. Or the other thing I might do, just to visually keep those dates in a column, is I might do a hard return here, and do something like that. So now we kind of see this visual column sort of appearing under here, just by wrapping the bullet point intentionally a little bit earlier. And all I did on that is I hit Shift Enter. Because if we hit Enter, it makes a new bullet point. But if you do Shift Enter, then it doesn't give you that bullet point, but it'll still do like a carriage return at that point. So a couple of tricks in there that you could do. But yeah, I would try to reduce some of the stuff, because some of the sentences you start with the verb and you don't say, I did this, I did this, I did this. And so I think that's like, you don't need to put pronouns on there. Like, this is your resume, so I'm assuming you were the one that did these things. Now, if you're part of a team that did these things, then you could say, my team did blah, blah, blah. Or you could say, my responsibility on the team was to do such and such. Now you mentioned when you send over the email with the new resume, you said you're looking for senior data analyst or data scientist role. So you're showing me a lot of analyst work here. This was all analyst work here. But if you want to get into a data science role, you're going to have to show me how you do data science. You do kind of show me some of the tooling that you might use as a data scientist, but what have you done as far as like actual data science? And so if you're applying for a data science job, you need that to be really prominent on here. Even if there's like some side project that you did that's showing how you're getting into data science, then I might do like just, do like data science projects or something up here, like do like a little project section where because as you clean up some of these, you're going to have that extra room on there anyway. You're going to have a little extra room on the page. So maybe put like data science projects on here. And then as part of your cover letter, as part of that introduction to the company, you can say, I'm interested in pivoting into a data science role. I've got a lot of analyst background where I can like tell a story with data, but now I want to get into like more of the data science and the processing side of it. Here's a project that I've done to kind of show my progression into that skill because I didn't necessarily do it professionally on the job. Something like that. So you could do like data projects or something like that. And then you could list out projects or something as a section in there. So as you clean up these bullet points, if you don't need them, if you don't need it to be 11-point font, and we can just do like 10-point font in here, then we don't need to hard wrap these. So as you clean up all these other bullet points and talk about like what you did and what the impact was and so on, maybe you'll have a little bit of room for a data project on here. And then we'll take out all these things and just stay consistent with the headings and things like that. And so what I did on the headings is I made them 12-point font with bold. Your name up here could be 20-point. Your title under here I made 14-point, but if you find that that's a little big, then you can trim that down. Again, if you want an analyst role, take the word scientist off of there. If you see a data scientist role that you want, take the word analyst off of there. Like, call yourself what you're going to be in that new job. You are a senior data analyst, then leave that as your title. If you're applying for a scientist role, then put that in there instead. So that's why I left both of those in there. So Master Firewall, I'll share this document over with you in a little bit. Just so you can kind of tinker around with that and you've got kind of a copy that you can get started, and we'll go from there. All right, so I'll get that clipped out and get that up on YouTube later on as well. So let me go back over to this screen. So I had a good question drop in from Lily16. So appreciate the first time chat. I know I'm a little bit behind on chat, so let me go handle that, and we'll do another clip for this as well. So we had a question show up in chat a few minutes ago. It said, I'm having trouble organizing a solid study schedule to prepare for a software engineering interview. How much time do you recommend allocating towards data structures and algorithms, behavioral tech interview questions, applying to jobs, as well as coding, building, and learning? That's a fantastic question. One of the hardest things about applying for jobs is trying to figure out how to apply for the jobs. It varies a little bit based on how much time you have to invest. It varies a little bit on what your life scenario is. If you're busy, if you're already working, and you've got other like family responsibilities, it's much harder to figure out where to fit all that kind of stuff in. If you're fairly new in the industry, data structures and algorithms will be important. Behavioral questions may be important as well, but it'll depend a little bit on what kind of background, what kind of experience you have. If you've already been in a software type of role, then you could have a little bit of background that you can share with behavioral questions as far as this has been my experience with such and such, but you may not necessarily have that kind of background. And so you're also going to need to figure out, how do I talk about my previous experience as part of what I do? And so that's a consideration as well. So you're going to have to figure out, how do I talk about a previous job, as far as like how that's making me a better developer or why that's of value to the company. So that takes time to practice. The technical questions, that's going to come up no matter what. So you're going to get technical questions about like, how does the web work? Tell me about DNS, tell me about blah, blah, blah. You're going to have those kinds of questions come up too. So as far as building up that schedule, what I would typically tell people is if you're going to kind of rotate through like leak code problems, you want to kind of build up a schedule where you say, like, today I'm going to practice depth first search, and I'm going to do like 1 or 2 questions on that, and then I'm going to move on and have a little bit of study time for behavioral questions and technical questions and so on. And then from there, you can get into like, how do I practice? Like, how do I keep up with my coding? Well, your coding is going to be kept up by practicing, leak code style problems or technical challenge problems. That's going to keep your programming skills sharp. But if you are, say, a React developer, those leak code problems aren't going to help you with React. And so you're going to need some way of like, how do I continue building like React projects and things like that are going to be appropriate to the companies where I'm applying. That's also going to be a little bit tricky as well. And so you're going to need, as part of your company research, trying to figure out what is that company going to care about? What kind of projects do I build that are going to stand out to them so that I can get the interview with them specifically? Because that kind of focus is probably going to get you a job a lot faster, as well as networking with people. That's going to get you a job much faster than just blind applying to a ton of jobs. You need to stand out to that company, and the way that you're going to stand out is by doing that research and showing them things that they care about on your resume and on your application and as you're networking with them. So how do you schedule that kind of stuff? I might do like, on the weekend, I might do a little bit of company research. Monday, Tuesday, apply for those jobs. Wednesday, Thursday, like keep practicing. On the technical challenges, and maybe just have like one running like React project where you're just constantly adding new features and new endpoints and new functionality or whatever. Just have like one main project where you're like constantly building stuff into. If you find a company where you're really interested and you want to make a separate project just for them, I think you can borrow from a lot of previous projects and get that project up and running a little bit faster. You don't have to build everything from scratch every time. As a programmer, I go in and I borrow code from my previous projects all the time. I think that's totally okay to do. And so I think that you can kind of streamline that process a little bit. But as far as, do you have to do leak code every day? Do you have to do a little bit of React code every day? Do you have to do a little bit of behavioral questions every day? No, I don't think so. I think as you practice the behavioral questions, you're going to get better at how to answer those. As you practice some of the technical questions, you're going to get better at those. I think that you can really focus on the technical side of it. I think especially when you're early in your career, they're probably more curious about your technical skill and what you're capable of writing as far as code than they are about how well you can answer behavioral questions. Those will still be important, but I think for a lot of companies, hiring an entry-level dev, they're going to be more careful about your technical skill than how well you answer the behavioral questions. They're still going to be important, but I think it won't be as important as your coding skill. And so I'd probably put a little bit more focus on that. So it's like, I can't recommend like 10% of your time to this and 20% of your time to that, but I would say spend more time on the coding. If it's a particular framework or language, spend more time in that. If it's just kind of raw language, I think a lot of like leak code style practice, as much as I hate leak code, I think that's going to keep up your JavaScript or your Python or, whatever programming language you use. I think that's going to keep up just the core language as far as like algorithmic thinking. For things like data structures, you can study those and kind of get the idea of the concepts of how do I do binary search? How do I do depth first search? How do I do a heap problem? How do I do 2-pointer problems? And you can go check out these leak code videos that I made. This will teach you a little bit about how to build that schedule as far as like practicing the leak code things and studying those data structures and what those algorithms are and how they work. And then from there, figure out, okay, now I need a little bit of time in there for behavioral questions. But again, I think once you do some behavioral questions and you kind of practice out, like, this is what I want to say if they ask me this kind of question, I think it's not something that you have to constantly practice. Like, how do I tell me about yourself over and over and over and over and over? I think if you do it 4 or 5, 6 times and you got it down, that's it. You got that story down. The day before that interview happens, if you know they're going to call, go back over those notes again. And so what I would typically do is I would write out all those behavioral questions and just write out a paragraph or two of like, this is what I would say. And then right before that interview, go back and scan that. What did I say about this? How do I want to present this or that kind of idea to that company? Because again, like all of those questions that they ask, like behavioral questions and technical questions, they want to know that you care about what they care about. And so also having questions around, or having answers around, not just who are you, but why should we hire you? Like that's really what they're asking, is why should we hire you over anybody else? And it doesn't always come across as a question of like, why should we hire you for this role? But when they say, tell me about yourself, they're really asking, what value do you bring to my company? Like, convince me to hire you in your answer here. And so I think it's important that you practice those kinds of answers for sure. Someone was asking in chat, what is a behavioral question? So behavioral questions are questions like, tell me about a time that you worked on a team and the communication wasn't working out well. Or tell me about, the time that you were working with a manager and communication, wasn't great. A lot of behavioral questions come down to team interaction and communication, and just as we would say from the phrase of behavioral question, like, how do you behave on the job? How do other people behave on the job? How do you behave when other people don't behave? And they really want to know, like, how are you interacting on a team? How much collaboration have you had? What's your communication style? And they want to hear a little bit about background around that. Like, tell me about a time that you worked on a project where somebody wasn't doing their share of the work. Like, how did you handle that? And you have to be careful not to answer too negatively about it, but you do need to say, like, yeah, we had to cover for them. We had to try to figure out a way because we had a deadline to meet. We had customers to take care of. So we all kind of banded together, and then we had to chat with them afterward about, like, hey, we can't let that slip anymore. Like, you have a responsibility to the team, blah, blah, blah. Like, how did you handle that as a team? How did you take care of that? Do you just leave everything up to your manager? Do you kind of handle things on the team yourself? These are things that hiring managers want to know about as well. Thanks for the question, Lily. It was a really good question. I do have an email series that you can go check out over here, and I'm actually building out a whole new series of technical questions and behavioral questions. And I'm thinking I might start sending those out to folks because the behavioral and the technical questions are ready to go. A lot of the general questions are ready to go. Some of the general, like, preparation, like how do you actually research a company and whatever, that mailing list is not ready to go. But if you want, Lily, send me a message through the website. So you can go to the Tech Interview Guide, and you can find my contact information on there. Or if you want to connect on Discord, send me a private message on Discord, and I'll share a link with how to sign up for the new email series, and maybe I'll start sending you some of those if you want some practice on those. Or I can, like, blast them all out to you or something, so you've got, like, some behavioral questions that you can kind of go through and so on. Fool Snable says, I'm of the opinion one should answer honestly, but I understand one wants to find an angle that presents oneself in a good way. Yeah. You don't want to be too negative. Like, how did you handle a time when your manager wasn't communicating well? You don't want to talk too badly about that manager because they want to know that you can be respectful in your communication. But also, if they hire you and you work there for a year or two and then you go work somewhere else, that you're not going to totally badmouth them as well and tell everybody, like, all the bad things about their company and whatever. So, they do want you to be respectful and mature in your language. That's really what they're looking for, is the maturity of all of that. So Lily, appreciate the follow. Thank you for that. So you might see the chatbot, like, leave messages over here every couple of minutes about the giveaway that's happening on Thursday. So for anybody that is a follower of the channel, you can register for that giveaway. Let me go get the link for that out of the chatbot. Let's see, where is that link? Here it is. I'm just going to drop this in chat for everybody as well. The bot's going to send this out every couple of minutes, but if you are a follower of the channel, you can go check out this link right here and go register, and I'll put that in the YouTube description later on as well. If you're a follower, you can go register for this giveaway, and we're going to have a bunch of giveaways. So the main giveaway is like a $100 gift card. And I found a website where I can send these gift cards, like, anywhere around the world. So whichever country you're in, I can send you a gift card for that country. And so go register on that site, and that'll put you in a spreadsheet. You do have to be a follower, because I'm going to cross-check that with Twitch and make sure that whoever wins is actually a follower. And it's doing it all programmatically. So it's going to Twitch and it's getting a list of my followers, and then it's looking at the spreadsheet and it's checking the usernames and make sure that you're actually a follower. And if you are, then you get an entry. Now, the way that I set up the entries is for every month that you've been following me, minimum of 1, you get 1 entry. So if you've been following me for the whole year, you're going to have 13 entries just for being a follower for that long. Now, that doesn't necessarily put you at a disadvantage for being a brand new follower, because I'm also looking how many followers you have on Twitch. And the less followers you have, the more additional entries I give you. And the reason that I do that is because I have a lot of other streamers that follow me as well, and they've got like tons of followers. Like I've got a handful of streamers that follow me that have like 10,000 plus followers. Well, I don't want to give somebody like an additional entry for every 100 followers, because then these really big streamers would have a huge advantage over everybody else. And those really big streamers don't need that $100 gift card, in my mind. The people that need the giveaways, or the people that sort of deserve the giveaways, are the people that are coming and asking questions and asking for advice, and they're not going to have huge followers. And so I'm doing an inverse check on how many followers you have, and the fewer followers you have, the more additional entries I give you. And so the most entries that you can get is going to be something like 24 entries into the giveaway. And the fewest that you could get would be like maybe 2 or 3 entries. So if you're a really big streamer and you just started following me, you're probably only going to get a couple of entries. So the last time I ran the code, let me go check that real quick. And then let's see, it's going to be Twitch followers. Python 3 1K. So right now, the lowest number of entries that somebody who has entered has gotten is 4 tickets. And the most that somebody has is 22 tickets. And that person has been following me for a whole year. And they have very few followers. And so they get additional entries off of that. So right now we have 1,026 followers, approximately. It hasn't been updated since Little Lily just joined. But I'm going to go through and run through that again, and it's going to look at how many followers you have and so on. And so if you want full disclosure on that, you can go check out the Discord community. I've got a write-up in one of the channels there about how I'm doing the actual number of entries and things like that based on how many followers you have. So I want to be fully transparent about how many entries you can expect to get. If you have a question about how many entries you are getting in the giveaway, you can certainly DM me, and I'll be really honest with you about that. So there's the bot like kicking in here with that reminder as well. So that's going to happen on Thursday. You don't have to be present to win. I'm going to draw the winners, and if you are present, great, you'll get to choose your prize. If you're not here, then I'm going to figure out, okay, well, if you're in this country, I'm going to send you like a Visa gift card, or if you're in that country, I'm going to send you like an Amazon gift card or something like that. But that's not the only giveaway that's going to happen. Hitokiri, good to see you. Haven't seen you in a minute. It's not the only giveaway that's going to happen. So there are going to be other giveaways. That's going to be like the main giveaway, but it's not going to be the only one. So there will be other things to give away as we go. But as promised, I was going to keep the stream a little bit short today because I do have family in town. So Fool says I've only got 8 followers. Well, that's fine. So Fool, you need to get in the giveaway. And then we'll figure out from there like how many entries you get. So yeah, go ahead and enter that giveaway. The only thing it asks for, like, it'll confirm your email address, and it asks for your Twitch username, how long you followed, and then like maybe like how did you hear about the stream. I'm always curious like how people find my stream, and then it'll ask like, tell me your favorite tip. Like, what have you learned following on here? Like what was something that stood out? And that's partly for me to kind of feel good about what kind of advice I'm giving out that people are remembering, but it also helps me give a little bit of direction to where to take the stream. If a lot of people are like, oh, I remember this about resumes, I remember this about resumes, I remember this about resumes, then I'm going to do more resume work. If people, are just kind of more on the general Q&A kind of thing, then I'm going to bring in more Q&A kind of stuff. And so I'm using that as also a direction of like, where do I take the stream for the next year? You already did participate. Cool. All right. So if you're already in there, then you're in there. Yep, Fool, you are in there. And so Fool, you have 8 followers. You've been following me for less than a month, so you currently have 11 entries. QC19, good to see you in chat as well. I created my Twitch account just to watch your streams. Oh, awesome. Appreciate that. Nice for me that rule of few followers. Yeah, so I didn't want people with like really big audiences to have an advantage. So I wanted to kind of do the inverse on the number of followers that you have. So if you're like just a listener on Twitch and you're not a streamer, then those are the kinds of people that I want to give away things to. Not to say that you can't win if you are a streamer, but if you're a streamer and you're building up your own audience and whatever, then good for you. That's great, but you're not my target audience. I mean, frankly, if you're trying to get a job in tech, then yes, you are my target audience. But my target audience is people that are coming by and they're asking for like how to interview and how to advance in their career. Those are the people that I would prefer the giveaway to go to. But everybody has a chance. Like, I want to be really clear on that. Like, it's still just a random selection. Like, looking at all the number of entries that you get, it's still going to randomly pick. But it's going to go through and it's going to say, you get this many entries and it puts you in that many times. And then it's like randomly going to roll through that and pick out those people. Now, when we do the giveaway on Thursday, once you win, it's going to take you out of the pool and it's going to rebuild the pool for someone else to win. So you won't win more than one prize. But that's how we're going to do the giveaway. So the main giveaway is going to be the $100 gift card. And then we've got a handful of other things that I'm not going to mention. But there will be other giveaways that are going to happen as well. I'm glad I tuned in today. I need to revamp my resume. So Jay Brinker, appreciate that. You can go check out the YouTube channel over here, youtube.com/Ian Douglas. I've got a whole playlist on resume reviews. So you can go through and you can kind of see like just general advice. And the resume review streams that I've done with other people where they've been on the stream and we've done resumes, you'll see those on that playlist as well. And so you can also see other people's perspectives and not just mine. I want to be really clear on that my opinions and ideas about how to build a resume are just my own opinions. Everybody's got opinions and perspectives, and I don't want my way of building a resume to influence, like, this is the way that you must write a resume. It's like, no, you don't have to follow my advice. There are lots of ways that you can write a resume. These are just my perspectives. And so I always try to be really clear and upfront about that. Like, you don't have to take my advice ever. In fact, I encourage people, don't ever just listen to my advice. Not that my advice is bad, but like, you need perspective. You need to listen to other people as well. And so it's important that you do hear other people's ideas and so on, and then form your own opinion on this is how I want to do it. Semester Firewall asked, is it okay for me to put senior data analyst even though it's not one of my professional titles? Yes. Whatever title you put at the top of your resume, that's what you want to be in your next role. And so you can do the same thing on LinkedIn, for example. Like, whatever your LinkedIn profile is, call yourself what you want to be, not what you currently are. Just say, this is what I aspire to be, but you don't put the word aspiring data analyst or aspiring senior data analyst. Just call yourself a senior data analyst. Now, if you are grossly misrepresenting yourself, then that's different. Like, if you call yourself a senior data analyst and you've only been doing it for 6 months, then you're not really at senior level at that role within reason. I mean, I've taken on like senior level roles where, my seniority came from just longevity in the tech industry as opposed to longevity in that particular kind of role. Like, when I was an instructor, I was hired as a senior instructor, even though I'd never been a full-time instructor before. But I gained the senior level title because of the amount of responsibility I was stepping into, as well as longevity in the industry. And so you can get that senior level role just from kind of that longevity. But as long as you're not grossly misrepresenting yourself, most companies aren't going to bother cross-checking. Like, was Master Firewall really a senior data analyst at that role? Companies aren't going to bother checking. They might, but it's highly unusual that they're going to call a company and, yeah, can you verify that this person actually worked from you from this date to this date and had this exact title? Most companies won't care. Like, at most, they'll confirm that, yes, you worked there from this date to that date. But they're not going to go into like, oh yeah, they had this responsibility and they managed this many people. Like, they're not going to share that kind of information. Caparino says, nice to hear that. Most young people are like, this is not what I wanted. This is not like I would do it. So it's not good. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, take the advice and you can take bits and pieces of advice from lots of people. There are a lot of folks on Twitch that do resume reviews, and so you can certainly look for those and see, go watch their VODs and see what kind of perspective they give. There's one guy that I like watching on YouTube. He's pretty entertaining as far as like doing resume reviews, but he's only got like 2 years of industry experience and he's not a hiring manager. But he still gives people like his thoughts and ideas on what he likes about a resume. What I think a little bit differently, from myself and Tiffany and folks like that, we're actually hiring managers. We are actual engineering managers who have very specific things that we look for on a resume. And so it's still good to listen to like this other guy. And I would love to have him on the stream too, because he's pretty wild and outgoing, though curses a lot, but he's still pretty fun to watch. It's still good to hear those perspectives around how he might build out a resume or recommendations he might make to your resume. But I think you're going to get more value from people that can give you qualified feedback who have been in management. So this also goes back to a question that someone had around behavioral, like how do I practice behavioral questions? Don't practice with somebody who can't give you good feedback. You have to practice with somebody who can say, this part was good. I would probably not say this. I would probably reword this like that. Who can actually give you feedback on how to answer that kind of question. I think that's really important. I think, because like I could sit down with my mom and be like, hey mom, what do you think about, tell me about yourself. And I just, list off a bunch of stuff. My mom's going to think you're brilliant and you're amazing. And yeah, you should, I would totally hire you. It's like, well, that's not necessarily qualified advice. It's advice, but is it qualified advice? Like, is it good advice? And that's why you have to be careful about who you do mock interviews with and who you do practice with. Like, what kind of feedback are they really giving you? Because if everybody just tells you that you're awesome and you're perfect, then you're not going to improve. You improve by working with somebody who's better than you or has more experience than you. That's how you're going to get better. And I heard this as advice years ago. Like, the only way you're going to get better at chess is to play somebody that's better than you at chess. The only way you're going to get better as a tennis player is to play tennis against people who are better than you or that have different kind of experience than you that can give you feedback on like, hey, when you hit the ball this way, like try and spin your wrist like a little bit more to like get more of that down curve on that ball. Like they're going to be able to give you better advice than just like, oh yeah, you totally crushed that ball. Like, good job. It's like, well, that's not helpful. That's not going to help you grow. It does give you some positive reinforcement and it gives you some validation, but it's not going to improve you. And it's the same thing with coding and things like that too. So yeah, I think it's important to always interview with people that can give you good feedback. Entered and fingers crossed. Awesome. Sweet. So yeah, so we're going to do that on Thursday. You don't have to be present to win the giveaway. If you win, I will notify you via email if you are not on the stream. But yeah, if you are here on Thursday, then you're going to get to pick your prize wherever you are in the world. I debated about moving it to Sunday because Sunday is a little more accessible for a lot of people around the world to come in and view. But if you can come hang out with us on Thursday, I may start the stream a little bit earlier on Thursday instead of doing it in the late evening. I might do it like late afternoon, do it a couple hours earlier maybe. So I'll be sure to tweet about it. So go follow me on the socials. I'll be putting notifications out on LinkedIn and Twitter, especially on when and how I'm doing the giveaway, just to make sure that people are drawn in. So cool. Well, I'm going to wrap up for the day because we do have family in town. We got a bunch of stuff going on today. So I'm going to wrap up here. I'm going to change the screen over to being just a screen of like go register for the giveaway and so on, but I'm not going to be on camera. I'm going to have a camera on the lights in the back. So if you want to play with the Nano Leaf and the Govey lights, you're welcome to do that. Otherwise, any bits, any subs, any donations, any of that, it's all going into the Diversity and Tech fundraiser. That's just going to be a continuous ongoing kind of event for us. Appreciate everybody's help in that, certainly. And yeah, I think that's it. Caprino says, I only have 1.5 years professional experience and 6 or 7 years of personal experience. This can happen when you do this as a hobby. Could I consider myself something above mid-level, maybe low, mid-senior? I think that's a good question. I think a lot of companies are going to look at the professional amount of experience that you have, but if you can prove why you deserve like an intermediate level title or a senior level title, then I think that's okay. I think you can still apply for those jobs. but they may look at how much professional experience you have and go, oh, if you've only worked on a year and a half professionally, is that really like senior level experience? What they're really looking for as a senior is, can you mentor people? Have you worked in a lot of big production systems? Have you handled a lot of like production level types of experiences? But I bet you could easily get an intermediate level job and then like progress into a senior level role shortly after that. That might be an easier transition than to immediately start applying for a senior level role when you only have a year and a half of professional experience. I think the lowest amount of professional experience that I hired someone into a senior level role was 4 years. But it does depend a lot on how you spend those 4 years. Like it's really, what do you do in those 4 years, not the number of years. It really depends a lot on how you spend that time. And as long as you can show a company very clearly how you bring that value and why you deserve that title, then they can't argue with it. So if you can say like, hey, I've been doing this for 6 years. I've got cloud deployment. I've got, Kubernetes and Docker and like all these tools that you use. Like I've been using all this stuff for years and years on all these side projects. It hasn't been professional experience, but I've still got experience doing it. If you can show that and the company, can see you demonstrate that skill, then there's no reason why you shouldn't. So yeah. Gans. Just out of curiosity, what's your process to solve a problem or build a new functionality in a system? Sometimes I get lost in my thoughts. I end up doing wrong. Do you do like a to-do list? So you can do a to-do list. I think doing like writing things down, I think is definitely important. I like using project trackers for myself, honestly. I use Trello, I use GitHub project boards, things like that for like my to-do list. So things that I want to do and things like how I want to organize those thoughts. I might use something like a Trello board, and then I can kind of rearrange the priority of them of like, this is what I have on my to-do list. This is what I'm currently working on. These are things that I've finished. So some way of like writing that stuff down. So even if it's something really super, simple, like a checkbox list, something like Google Keep or something like that, I think is a good way to get started. But I would probably use something like Trello. It's free. It's just Trello.com. I'll drop that in here. Trello.com. But if you have a GitHub account, you can use GitHub projects as well. Just make little issues for yourself. Make a private repo. So you don't have to, it doesn't have to be public to everybody. Make a private repo, make a project board in there, and then just start making issues for yourself, because then you can rearrange them and you can pull them over when you're working on them. You can pull them over when they're done, and you get to see that progress a little bit. And I think seeing that progress is helpful instead of just going in and like checking checkboxes, because there might be a particular order that you need to do things in. And so you can rearrange those stories. Like, I need to do this one next so that I can do this one after that. So I like using stuff like Trello and GitHub project boards. You can join as a junior mid and move if you deserve it. Yeah, but if you've been doing it that long, sometimes junior level job isn't really what you're aiming for. You could probably step into an intermediate role even with a year and a half of professional experience. If you can show like that personal experience has been a progression of skill and not that you've just been tinkering on the same thing, for 6 years over and over and over. If you show like, I started here and then I moved on to this and then I progressed into this and now I can also do this and this and this, you're showing that progression of skill. That's what companies are looking for, because that's the value that you bring to them. Is I've been able to progress in this, and not just I learned Python, I can do a hello world script like nobody's business because I've done that like 50 times. It's like, okay, well, you're really good at that one thing, but that's not like 5 years of experience. You've done 1 year 5 times as opposed to 5 years of progressive skill progression. That's really what companies are looking for, is that progression in there. Whip, good to see you as well. For some reason, my Stream Deck audio is not working, but give you that at least. When I'm in complex projects, I tend to create a bunch of tasks and then identify the dependencies in a graph. You can do that too. Yep. And some project boards, you can say like, I can't do this until this other one is done. Like, you can actually go in and link them together that way. And if you try to pull one over, it'll warn you like, hey, you said you had to do this other one first. That can be a little overcomplicated when you're doing like a personal project though. So I just like doing Trello boards of like, these are current things that I want to do. And if it's something like a coding project, I'll do something like GitHub projects. where you can literally go in and say, I want to add this feature and these are the things that I want to do, because then you can add tags and things like that. So if I feel like I'm, you know, in a UI frame of mind and I want to get into some CSS, I can go look at all the CSS based stories or all the UI stories and just focus on that. Or if I'm doing some writing, I can just focus on the technical writing side of it and documentation, things like that. So use digraphical. All right, well, I'm going to take off for the day. Appreciate everybody hanging out. So I'm just going to keep the thing running. I'm just going to change the screen so that it's not me on camera. But I will check back in a couple hours and shut it off. Otherwise, I'm just going to switch over to this screen. And so this is showing a little bit here. I do need to update the total followers. So let me go update that. So total followers, number of tickets, and even this is going to get updated a little bit, but I'm just going to go in and drop this in here as well. So yeah, spread the word. Let people know that that I've got this giveaway going on. If you'd like to be involved in the giveaway, you are welcome to do so. There we go. We've updated that now. So I think I've got one additional follower. I think I've lost a follower somewhere along the way as well. So I might have to go in and rebuild that database. But yeah, you can see how many people have entered. I do need to update that as well. So yeah, I'll update these stats towards the end of the day, but this is kind of where things are looking so far. And I'm still here, so you can see me over here. I'm waving at everybody. It's just I've got a different camera pointed at the lights, so you're welcome to tinker with the nano leaf and so on. Otherwise, I'm just going to mute the mic, and I'll leave the music playing at least. And but I won't be around to answer other questions, so I'll just be hanging out with family, and we'll go from there. So thanks everybody for hanging out today. Thanks for dropping by, and thanks for the questions. Always great questions, and thanks for the resume review again, Master Firewall. And we'll catch you all on Thursday. I will have this stream running throughout the day leading up to Thursday, and then watch those social channels. Go follow me on these social channels, and keep tabs on when I'm going live on Thursday for the giveaway. And we'll see you all then. Cheers.